everyone. My name is George Marigenian, and I am Program Director for the Wachusett Chess Club, which meets every Wednesday night at the McKay Campus School at Fitchburg State College. And I'm here today with one of the most active chess players from Worcester County, North Worcester County, and that's Martin Lane of Lunenburg. And Martin has joined me to teach you out there, you viewers, a little more about chess. Some of you already play chess, and some of you are beginners, some of you may be more than beginners, but we're going to teach you something that's going to be very beneficial to you in improving your game of chess. And I'm going to ask Martin, for example, how long he's been playing chess, when he learned chess, how many years ago? It's been a long time, I'm sure, Martin.
Well, I can mark the time when I first learned chess, and that was Christmas when I was 5 years old, when a family friend gave me my first set. But I really started playing seriously when I was in college, and that would have been 1968 or 69, so just about 40 years.
Now, what attracts you to the game of chess? Is it something that you can identify as appealing?
Well, I've always liked puzzles, and so it's like an ongoing puzzle, and you know, you're constantly trying to solve a problem, and that's the challenge. And then, of course, it's even more challenging because your opponent is creating more problems for you, and you're trying to create problems for him. So yeah, it's a challenge of like this, the same way you would go after a jigsaw puzzle, for instance, trying to make something fit, trying to get better at it.
I see. Well, that's what the same reason why it appeals to me, because I feel that there's the challenge of problem solving, and that's what chess does to teach you, to solve a problem, and it should teach you logic. Does it teach you logic? Clear thinking?
I think so.
Does it teach you self-determination, willpower, all these things which are essential to become a good chess player?
Well, sure. You have to think through all the possibilities of each position, and they sometimes can seem really almost infinite in terms of the number of possibilities, and you have to sort through the ones that are no good and finally try to choose what you think is the best move.
Okay. Well, Martin, you have a preference when you play chess, whether you play the white pieces or the black pieces?
It really makes no difference to me. I mean, some players, I guess, do prefer white over black, but I really don't. I personally don't have a preference.
Okay. Well, when you have the white pieces, is there a certain opening moves you adopt?
Well, the one I play most often is the E2 pawn to E4.
Okay. Let me put this on the demonstration board so we can even see this even better. So we're moving the pawn on the E2 square to E4. And I see that the chessboards actually have lettering and numbering. Lettering across, that is representing actually these are files. So this is actually, would this be the A file, the B file? So we have letters for the files, and then we have numbers which represent the ranks. Okay. Right. And this is very important to know what the notation is as far as describing a chess move. So you have made E2, E4. Okay, now put yourself in the place of the player who's black, and you're playing against your own opening move. What do you see a lot of players playing against this E2, E4?
Well, I would say that probably the most common response or the most common reply is to sort of meet it head on, the E7 to E5.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's play E7 to E5, or simply E5. We can actually use the shortened form of notation, just calling E5. That's the only thing that can go to E5 square is this pawn. Now, is there a reason why is that the only move, or is there a reason why we want to play E5 against E4?
Well, hypothetically, there are 20 possible responses, right?
Yes.
20 legal responses.
Right.
But in the opening, well, in the game itself, the center of the board is the most important area of the board.
Now, how would you describe the center of the board? What squares are we talking about?
These four squares.
These four squares, the D4, E4, D5, and E5, those are your center squares?
Right.
Okay.
And so the players are trying to accomplish really two things in the opening, and one is to control the center of the board, and also to make lines to get the other pieces up, because the way the pieces are set up, there's not really a lot of play. The pieces back here can't really do much. So you need to open up diagonals, ranks. These are the diagonal.
I see that you have actually opened up for this bishop to come out on this diagonal, and black, by playing E5, has accomplished the same thing for his dark squared bishop.
Right.
All right. Well, that looks like a logical reply. I would say that's the most sensible reply. I would certainly advocate beginners to adopt this against e4. Now, but now what would you play, Martin, on the next move for white?
Well, again, me personally,
Yes?
I'd play the knight on b1 to c3.
All right.
The other popular response is the knight on f1 to on g1 to f3.
Okay, now what is the difference? Can we go with your move? Now, with
Sure.
your move, why this move? What does this move do?
The move does two things for me, and one is it adds a little protection to this should it
Yes,
should
I
it
see this
get
is
attacked.
protected.
But it also attacks these two squares over on the black side, the d5
Yes.
and the b5 square on
Okay.
and then it also is on the a4 square, but that's not quite as important as these two.
Right.
So it gives me it brings a piece out to where I can play with it. It's not doing me much good here. It adds a little support here. It's not especially an aggressive move, but it develops a piece and it does strike some squares on the
And you use
opponent's
the
side.
word develop, and that's actually a very essential in the opening of the game. Is develop means actually just getting the pieces into play.
Right.
And remember, these are your pieces, and in as much as these pawns are not pieces, would this? Let me give you an example. If we played, for example, you brought this knight out to add to the defense of this, also have control over this square d5 and d5, but would you say this is a good second move, or yes or no?
Well, I would say no. It's
Yeah,
not
why-
entirely bad. It does have the benefit of protecting that pawn. It does open up a line for the bishop,
For this dark square bishop
for
come
the
out,
dark
yes.
squared bishop. But it does. But on the other hand, it blocks in movement for the white squared bishop, which you might want to do first and then consider this.
So
and
that's
and there may be a reason why later on I may want to play this up here. So I didn't play this first. I often play it later if I want to, but I want to reserve
Okay.
the ability to play out to here if it becomes useful.
so this is really not a good move. This is, yeah.
I think it's questionable.
And it really does not help anything in the way of development,
No.
which involves pieces.
Right.
So shall we play now? Let's go
Or-
back to the move you said that you
The
said that
alternative,
the
right.
alternative, the bringing out this knight,
Yeah,
developing
this
this
is,
knight.
This is probably more common.
Why is this more common, Martin?
Well, I think this is a little, if you look at it, it's a little bit more aggressive, whereas with the queen's knight, I said it protects this pawn. Well, this pawn's not attacked, so it doesn't really need protection.
Yes.
On the other hand, this develops a piece, and it attacks this pawn. So that forces black to somehow make a reply that takes care of that threat,
I see. Defends this pawn.
defends the pawn,
So
or,
actually-
or counters the threat.
Well, but so what you're saying is by playing this knight out first, we have the first threat of the game.
Right.
Whereas where we develop this piece, knight b1 to c3, we are not threatening anything, but we're developing a piece to its natural square. I would assume
Right.
that a knight here is a good natural square for this piece. What would you think as far as developing the knight over to here, a3? Would you say that's good or bad?
Well, I would say it's questionable. It's good if you can be sure that on the next move or soon thereafter you can bring it back towards the center
I see.
of the board.
So
If-
actually, the knight actually could actually redeploy.
if you
or
think-
if you could do
if-
that.
if it's going to work out. But
Safely.
you don't want to get caught over on the edge because the knight on the edge has very little scope out here. You
Yes.
can take these two over here and then back
Back.
here. Whereas a knight that's towards the center
Has more squares?
Yeah, can get it like probably 8 squares from there.
Has more range. Actually,
Right.
can even go actually
Right.
retreat to here. So okay, so shall we play your move? Because we don't mind playing your move. So knight c3, that's a good developing move. So we won't play this move, which actually threatens the pawn, because there are players who do play this. In fact, I have played this on numerous occasions. I've also played knight f3. So both are good moves. Well, now it's black's turn. Do you have anything you would recommend for black? Put yourself in the place of the black player. What can black do?
Well, the two...
I mean, black certainly has choices, I would assume.
Again, the two most common moves are to develop either one of the knights. I see both of them on pretty much equal occasions.
Well, you mean, how about this knight?
Okay, the knight to f6.
As a rule, is it good to develop knights before bishops? I mean, we could have actually brought this bishop out. I see we've opened up the diagonal.
There's nothing stopping the bishop coming out.
Okay.
I don't...
But by bringing this knight out, now we bring this knight out, and of course this knight comes and actually puts pressure on this pawn, but we're not going to take this pawn because you're adequately defending it.
Right.
But at least we're getting at least one. We had a choice, either this night or the other night.
Right.
All right, so how do we continue, Martin? This is White's third move coming up.
Well, what
you
I
must have an idea of what White should do.
what I do at this point is I usually bring out the bishop to c4.
Okay. So you want to bring the bishop here. Okay. All right. That seems, yeah, that seems sensible, because now you have a two, now your second piece in play here. All right, what does black to do? Well, you have any suggestions as far as black? You know, what would you recommend for black?
Well, I don't really know what I recommend.
Well,
I think one relatively conservative way is to bring out the other knight.
yes.
A very conservative way is to just simply bring this pawn up. It
That's
opens up the bishop line.
You say that's conservative. Yes, it does open up this diagonal, but Martin,
It blocks in.
but it does block in this bishop. So would that be not as good as developing a piece? As I say,
Right. I would
knight here-
recommend developing pieces.
the
then.
knight here. Oh, but could black also? You
Black-
brought your bishop here. Could black bring his bishop
Black could do the same.
to this square, c5?
Right. Black
Is
could
that,
do
is
the
that is that possible?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
And for all the same reasons, it brings
Okay.
up.
Now, Martin, you and I have played chess long enough to know that in this position, there's also another alternative. There's an alternative other than the knight developed in c6 or the bishop out to c5. Even the bishop e7 is possible.
Right.
It's passive because actually it does get in the way of the queen, and it's in a passive role here. But Martin, you and I have played chess so many years that you probably have faced this
Right, many times.
when you've played me and I've played you, where black surprises white and actually takes the pawn. We take the pawn here. This, I thought, was the pawn that was protected by this knight. So why can black take that pawn? What is the purpose of actually taking that pawn? It actually looks like white's going to win that knight. Yes or
Well-
no? Is that a win? Is that a win of a pawn for black, or actually is?
Well, temporarily it
Black-
temporarily it certainly wins the pawn because I can't. There's no other pawn that I can get. Well, I can
Right.
sacrifice there. I suppose one idea would be to well, why not capture back?
Yes.
But that poses a serious problem because
Why?
black simply plays out, and now I stand.
Oh, now Martin, by playing this, so the idea is to allow this capture of the piece, so that by playing d5.
Well, that would be one idea, but
Well, this is actually now this term in chess we know
Right.
is a fork. We're attacking two pieces at the same time. So white has to actually white cannot save both pieces, right?
right.
So what should white do? What piece actually should white save?
Well, most people consider the bishop to be a little bit more powerful than.
Aha.
the
So
knight.
saving
So
the bishop. So you'd recommend saving the bishop.
So it could come back, or it could check first.
Or check and then go back.
And then
Oh.
come back. If
Okay.
he checks, then
yes.
it needs to be blocked, I suppose.
Ah, I see. So if you did that, okay. Very good. In fact, would that force actually, if the bishop came here first and checked, would that limit black's replies here?
Well, he has to answer the check, so he's got
Yes.
a few possibilities.
Okay, but actually, what are the possibilities? And is there only one good reply here if the white bishop went here with the check?
Well, I suppose he'd have to do something like this.
Oh, yes. I see.
To
Now-
drive the bishop
Now
back.
we actually the pawn. We have actually still the two pieces attacked.
So he's still going to have to come back.
But I think I see the reason
this-
why the bishop would block. It would deprive that knight
Right.
of a natural developing square. So
Right.
this is like what we call in German a little Zwischenzug, a little
Right.
in-between move,
Right.
to deprive that knight of its natural developing square, and then retreat,
And then come back to...
come back. So when you come back to
You
d3,
can recapture with the bishop.
and he better recapture, because if he doesn't recapture that piece, or that pawn, he won the piece, right? You
Right,
won.
I-
So he has to
So he
take
had
right
to-
away. He has to take d takes e4,
And then he
and you
captures
take back. Okay. So you recover. So you recover your pawn.
Right.
Okay. And
that-
so yeah.
So,
what,
so that, I mean, about all, I mean,
Okay.
the material's even, the bishop
Right.
is centralized, the queen has some space,
okay.
but that's not really the line that,
Yes. So let's
that's
go
not a
back.
line that I would go
Okay.
at.
Yes.
There's another line to
Let's
go
go back to the position, because this is a critical position. Let's put it back to this position right here, and this was here. So what I was suggesting was knight takes e4, but as you pointed out, you're not going to play knight takes e4. You have something better. Show
Well,
me.
in chess, a lot of times, if you have if your opponent has done something or has a threat,
Right.
one thing to do is try to meet it by capturing the knight back, like we saw, and that's kind of so-so.
Yes.
The other thing is to meet it with a larger threat, and that would be to move this queen out to
Oh.
a5.
So what are we threatening by doing here?
Well, now we're threatening checkmate. So he-
Oh, you mean the queen capturing the pawn f7
Right.
is yes. It's in fact I see that the major threat is checkmate.
right.
I see another threat of
Right.
this pawn which is unprotected.
Right.
So Martin, what do we do here? How are we going to stop the checkmate? We have to stop the checkmate. So is there a way to do this? Is there only one way, or is there several ways to stop checkmate?
Well, if he plays,
All right,
if
let's
he
say
just blocks
if
the
he
diagonal.
if he blocks that, is that good or bad?
Well, I don't think it's especially good. Now the queen can come back
Oh,
here. Check.
so if we block this, the queen is under attack. If the queen takes this pawn and calls check,
then he has to deal with that.
now how does he deal with that? Because we now, Martin, I don't like this at all for black, because
No.
this queen now is checking the king. It's also attacking the rook, and it's also threatening to win this piece.
Right.
So how does
Well,
black-
he can't play the bishop because that loses the rook
Right, he'd
instantly.
lose. Yes, if he plays the bishop here, blocks this way, you're
Right.
saying the queen
He
would take
simply takes
would
the
take
rook.
this and call check.
And then he has to move.
Then he has to go back again, and then he goes back and
comes
check,
back here, and then
he picks off this. So
So-
he'll be two pieces
Right.
ahead.
So
I
that's-
don't like that
that's-
at all.
right, so that's
so
no
Martin,
good.
let's put this back. So what we're saying now on this check, what? Okay, let's. No, hold it. Let's play. Let's play this here. Block here. Now
Right.
that stops the what does that do?
Well, that blocks the check, and there's no longer a threat of checkmate. But if
now we just simply take here, don't we?
you could do that, or play queen take queen check, and then,
But we win a piece.
but you'd still win the piece, right?
Okay. Yes.
If
right.
you played queen.
That's right, exactly. You're right, Martin. Even with the block, you could even take this. You could take this way, check, which would force a recapture. Bishop takes on e7, and then you're saying now you can win the piece
Right.
by simply taking knight takes e4.
Right. But that's not. But this just shows that
Right.
g6 is
All right.
not best for
So
black.
that's a bad move.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that shows you that blocking the check is not good. Let's put all this stuff back. Okay, right here. Okay. Now we're going to put the queen back here.
And
So we'll put the
there's a
pawn
pawn.
here.
Right.
So there's got to be
Yeah, another-
the better way to do. We can't block this way. Okay. You're a camera. Okay. All right. Now, so it seems to me, I think I can defend this. Okay. All right.
Right.
Right. Let's go here. How about Martin here? How bringing the knight back to d6? This knight protects this pawn, and this knight at the same time attacks this bishop. How about that?
Right.
Is that logical?
Sure. Now I have to. Well, I can't. Now I can't eliminate the threat. I have to simply put the bishop somewhere.
All right.
Defending the bishop really doesn't help me out at all because you can exchange, and then I take, and then my position is
And
kind
you're
of
still,
broken
and
up,
this is still
and that's
undefended. This
still
could be this.
Right.
See, white could still take this pawn, right?
Right.
All right.
I could take the pawn there.
All right. So what do you
But
recommend?
what I normally do is I come back to here because I want to maintain this pressure down along this diagonal
Okay.
because now you're still stuck. You can't do anything with that knight now.
Okay.
Otherwise,
So, yes, I like this idea of actually retaining this bishop, keeping the pressure on this square, this f7 square. And of course, white now, it's black's move. We just retreated the bishop.
Right.
Now, and of course, now white is also threatening this pawn is unprotected. So, what if black said, well, now I want to protect that pawn? And let's say black plays something that's logical to me. Just plays the knight to c6. And now we're protected.
Right.
Now
It's-
black is still a pawn ahead.
right. Black.
So what are we going to do, Martin? It's white's move.
Well, one of the strategies is this is still this square is still weak. The bishop is
We got
still
the
on
bishop.
it, and the queen is still on it.
But we have it defended, though.
It's defended by one. But if I threaten the defender,
Aha. So you're bringing the knight to b5. That is, you would like to take away this defender from
Right.
this square.
right?
Okay. Oh, I don't like that at all, Martin, for black, because you're threatening to take here with check. take away the defender, and then leaves this pawn it's only the king is
Right.
only protecting it. It's attacked twice. All right, Martin, I think what we got to do now, we have to do something about blunting this attack, this pressure on the f7 square. And the only thing that makes sense to me, Martin, in this position is now I think g6 is okay, isn't it?
Right, now it works.
Because now we're attacking the queen.
Right, and I don't have this pawn. Now that pawn's protected, so I don't have the take
All right,
here.
so what are we going to do, Martin?
Well, I can still maintain pressure by coming back.
I see. So
to
you're
here.
still lining up with this square here with the bishop, and you want to get rid of this, right? You
Right.
actually want to deflect this knight from this defensive post. All right? Ooh, Martin, I think we still have to do something about taking the pressure off this square with this queen line up here. How about this, Martin? Does this make sense to just play this pawn all the way up?
Sure, this pawn's protected twice,
Right. We've got a
and
we got
it
a chain.
blocks. It now blocks the queen's threat there.
Okay.
But I still can maintain the threat. I can try one more
Oh,
time.
so you actually have maneuvered around.
I've gone
so
here,
you,
here, and here.
Yes. So you've actually now have renewed the threat by actually being lined up here. Two pieces lined up. Of course, this is right now defended twice, but we want to get rid of this. Once we get rid of this, we're able to zoom in here and
Right.
call mate. So is there a way to stop this? It looks like, Martin, we have to defend this square another time. And how are we going to do that? Is there...
Well, the only piece that you can bring in is the queen,
Yes.
either to here or to here.
So the queen either e7 or f6 will protect this square f7. Okay? Is one better than the other?
I don't really, at this point, I don't really know. I've seen both.
Okay. Well, I have played this, Martin. You,
We played this.
Probably is no surprise to you. And I would think, I would much rather play the queen here to protect here, to be on this file. I mean, it's not an open file because I have the pawn is blocking it. But at least now we're protecting this. But now, white now.
Okay,
has a
so
big-
you prefer this because you're on the same file as the king.
King, you're right, exactly.
Whereas here, even though it protects the king, it's kind of off the file.
Right. It does actually add further defense of this, but I really am not concerned about defending this again.
Right.
All right, now it's white's move, Martin.
Okay.
What would you recommend?
Well, now, having moved the queen, you've left this vulnerable.
Oh, I left the defense of this.
Right. And it takes the pawn with check.
So knight takes c7. We have now another fork. We're
Right.
attacking two pieces at once. And I see, Martin, that there's only one move for black here. Can't move
Right.
the king here because you control this square. So the only square the king can go to is over here. Okay. I see. So black has now lost a rook as a result.
Right.
Well, this doesn't look too good for black to lose a piece. Of course, how is black going to continue? Well, you have any recommendations for black? I mean, because you've played against this, you've played this as white, so you probably are aware of what black should do.
Well,
against this?
black needs to get more pieces out.
Yes,
Now that he, you know,
this is a piece that's really is in poor shape. I mean, it has no place to move.
right. And
But
he-
can we try to get that piece into play?
Well, the quickest way to get this piece into play is to move this pawn. It would take two moves at least. Well, and even then, you can't really move it very
All
far.
right.
The queen's green now, so you need to. Black needs to play this.
All right. With what idea now? What are you planning to do? What is black planning to do after that?
Can play the bishop to here, and then.
I
then
see.
I have. Then even though I've temporarily taken the rook, I mean, I don't really have any great hope of holding on to this knight. It's going to be a trade.
So that the black would win at least the knight back.
But it's going to take him two moves to do it. so.
Exactly.
So
But white has already won what we call the exchange.
right.
This is more valuable than that knight. So if black plays this, how can white proceed here? I mean,
Well, I have the same problem. Now I've mounted this attack, but
Yes.
really I only have my queen and my bishop out.
That's
My
it.
knight is going to be gone
Right.
at some point. So I need to start working on getting my pawn position better and getting my pieces someplace and get my king to safety because the
Okay.
queen is breathing right down here. So I need to start by opening up some space here.
all right,
And I'm going to open up a line for this bishop because this can be useful.
all right. So this opens up for this bishop to come out. And you said the plan actually is to activate this bishop by playing that b6. So now if we play the bishop to b7, now does black actually have a threat here?
Well, the threat, I mean, of course, that I know.
That's one
but-
threat. I see winning the knight,
But
but is there
but
another
if-
threat?
But if this knight, say, goes here or here,
right?
then it opens up an attack on my
Oh.
queen, and I'm starting to have a limited number of spaces that I can go to.
Is it possible that actually, with this move, that this, if black's threat is actually to move this knight, as you say, either to b4 or even to there, and is that queen trapped? Is that queen now lost?
Yes, I think so. Pretty close
The-
to. Unless,
in
yeah,
fact-
it doesn't. Yeah, it is
In
lost.
fact, there's
It
no,
is-
there's
it
no
is
square
lost.
can that knight can go to.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, then let's go back. Martin,
Okay,
it looks
so-
like we have to stop this threat of the knight going there.
Right. Well,
or
Well, a couple things can be done. Either start moving the queen out of the way. That's one. This is one choice.
that's what to move it back immediately.
I can get it out of the way, right, so that when you do that,
Right.
I can come back here, if I
Right.
want to, like that. And
Oh,
then
so
that-
it gives you more squares to
yeah, it
retreat
gives me
to.
retreat to.
Okay.
I do have one other resource. Opening this line up
Yes.
and looking that the queen is on the same diagonal as the king,
Oh,
I do have an option here
Oh, I see. By playing this, you're threatening now.
to bring the bishop.
Your threat is to bring the bishop here, and actually to pin this queen. It looks like this queen is lost
Right.
because it's lined up actually behind the king. The king is lined up behind it. So that's the threat. So if that is the threat, black has to stop this threat. Black should not allow this bishop to come
Right.
here. Okay. So what can black do? Well, I can see different things that black could do here. To my mind, there are two possibilities for black in this position. And I'm going to run it by you as far as which one you think is better than the other. I can see actually pushing this pawn to f4, which would certainly shut in this bishop, deprive it from going here. That's one way. And another way is actually just moving this pawn to h6, which keeps that bishop out of this square.
Right.
So those are the only two possibilities I see in this position, Martin. Do you have any thoughts as far as which one is better? I don't see anything else.
No, I think they actually are both just as good because they both pose they solve the same problem.
Yes.
As it stops this threat,
Right.
and it poses the problem for me. Then where am I going to put my queen?
Right.
Because then this threat is out. I have to get my queen to safety, which is to bring it back to here.
Okay.
Either way, I don't see that I have any.
Yeah. Well, personally, I think I would favor pushing the pawn because if I push the pawn to h6, true, I've stopped this bishop from coming here, but I think I've actually I've weakened that pawn.
Right.
I think that actually now has lost a defender. So by playing f4, okay, I play f4 here, and now now black is renewing the threat of coming here. You know, Martin, I think this is a fascinating position. And we're going to continue next time to see how this game continues. This is probably one of the most intriguing tactical openings you can play in chess when you're playing e4, e5.
Have they given it a name?
Yeah, I think they have given it a name, Martin. This is known as the Frankenstein-Dracula variation.
Right.
And we're going to find
For
out
good
why
reason.
it's called the Frankenstein-Dracula variation, because it is wild and woolly, scary as they can come. And next time, Martin and I are going to show you how we're going to continue in this very scary opening position in chess. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Chess for All Ages.